All right, welcome to Joshua Kemble's live stream. We're doing another one tonight. I'm aiming to like probably wrap around 3, so we'll see. We're doing a live stream while I was coloring page 10 of Not Death But Love: The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. It's a historical fiction graphic novel, and I've basically gotten to the point where I've done the pencils, which are also the inks in the process that I'm working in since I work digitally. And then on for this book in particular, if you're tuning in for the first time, just know that my graphic novels and stuff like that, usually I have more of an intro at the top, but my graphic novels that are out, one is coming out next month, and then the other one is currently available. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment are both available on Amazon and at bookstores everywhere. Jacob's Apartment should be available at all your comic shops, Barnes and Nobles, all that fun stuff. And then I also have a signing coming up. I should be appearing at TCAF at the later end of next month. But anyhow, all of that out of the way. We were knee deep into the stream, and on the last stream, and then I literally had major computer issues. And so like what was happening was like if I made a selection, it would just lag. And I finally decided to just restart my computer. I cleaned up my desktop and I realized I had like a huge, like gigabyte level sized video file that was on my desktop that I hadn't taken off, that might have been causing some of the lag. So hopefully that's the case and my computer's not dying. And we'll kind of get back into flat coloring this page. But basically what I'm working on is trying to kind of flat color this page, get through it. I didn't share this link out on social media or anything fun like that, so who knows who all will show up. Also, it's like 1 a.m, so there's that too. But you never know. The night gang is strong, and so sometimes we have like a variety of interesting people show up on the streams. But the whole point of this stream is to kind of work on my graphic novel, which is it's going to be a 200. This particular one is a 230 page graphic novel that we're about on page 10, and we have till April of next year to kind of knock out this crazy historical fiction comic that has a lot of crowd scenes and stuff like that. So what I'm doing right now is just borrowing colors from previously done pages. The latest one that I finished was this, and we're going to kind of work through it. So I was trying to figure out what, oh yeah, okay. So the last thing we were doing was kind of everything that's in magenta are stuff that I have to deselect. I have to flatten and deselect. And before I quit out, I wisely did that so that I can kind of pull from where we were last. I'm going to pull the color of Robert's eye, and I'm going to pick a different color for this lady. My maid eyeball is what I wanted to get to. And last time it was running so slow. I'm glad it's like running back to regular speed, because I swear I would have lost my mind having having to deal with that lag. I really tried to power through it for people who bothered to show up to the stream on the last one, and man, I feel like that stream in particular, I probably lost about a half an hour of work just getting through that. So I think her eyes will be kind of like this blue. And I think that's the only scene where we're going to see her eyes. Oh, never mind. We're going to see her eyes here. Hopefully when you're watching this, you're going to see the difference in time frames of like selections. When there was that, it's funny. I was really trying to power through it. And when you have like computer delays, it just like, it's insane. Like the difference between how much time it takes with like a computer delay as opposed to not. Okay, so I want to deselect. Right now I want to get into Elizabeth's lips. Let's do that first. Okay, Elizabeth's lips. I also want to make sure, okay. Elizabeth's lips. Let's get her lips. This is the outer lip here. And what we're trying to do is just basically lay out the flat colors for this page. Again, usually on these, I do like an intro of some sort. I guess for anybody tuning in, I should explain who I am and all that fun stuff. I've been a graphic designer and illustrator for going on close to 20 years now, which is insane. I've been saying 15 habitually for the last like 6. Or 5 or 6 years. So anyhow, I've been doing art professionally, commercial art professionally for a long time. And then when I'm not doing commercial art professionally, I'm also doing graphic novels and stuff like that. And my main project, like my big dream project, is this autobiographical 2-part series that I'm working on for Marcosia Publishing, and that is 2 stories. So this book deal for this book was like a side project pitch to my literary agent that ended up getting that we developed with my sister, and I developed with my literary agent, and it ended up getting picked up by West Margin for publication like in 2 years, which means I have a year to do the entire book. So that's pretty exciting, but also challenging. But the style is a lot different than what I do 2 stories in. But I had to put like 2 stories on pause so that I can work on this. But I have to say, it's kind of been a fun change of pace for a little bit, because I have been working. I don't want to do the interior of her mouth yet, because I want to do mouth interiors. I think that's the mouth interior color right there. Boom. I think it helps to kind of have a little bit of a difference with your flats when it comes to like the interior side of a mouth, right? Just helps create depth and dimension. Another dimension. So anyhow, if you're tuning in and you followed me from the last stream, welcome. Man, that was chaos. That might have been a rough one to watch too, just because even doing it now that I kind of cleared up my computer and stuff, it's like, oh man, it's like night and day, like the difference in time frames to kind of do flats. And I mean, I'm not the fastest of artists, but holy moly, like the time to just anyhow. So that will be viewed as like a distant memory now. Should we do Elizabeth's face now? Let's do Elizabeth's face. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys, if you did watch the last stream, I'd love to hear in the comments what your impression is. Does Elizabeth's eyebrows... Okay, so I shouldn't get into her face yet, because her eyebrows too. And I should also see if there's... Okay. So maybe we should actually start with Elizabeth. Let's start with Elizabeth's hair. Okay. Get her hair selected. Because I think even though that's a black line, it's like it's still going to show through to have her eyebrow color there. Okay. So we're going to kind of work our way through the flats. I was feeling like it's funny when you're working with a computer that's like lagging. It's like you almost start feeling like maybe I'm slowing down. But holy moly, that was... If you guys want to see somebody like me patiently trying to kind of override the frustration of a computer taking like 10 years to do what I need it to do, and possibly causing me to lose maybe a half an hour of productivity, feel free to watch the last live stream. It was craziness, man. And it's like, it's funny how you adjust to it. You kind of adjust to it and forget how much it's sort of like crippling your ability to effectively get stuff done. I also realize here I didn't finish a flat. And that's okay, because I can do this real quick and get her sleeve there on the Chase Lounge where Elizabeth's at. So I feel like I might be able to power through the flats on this page yet still. Still may have time, you guys. So my heart out for the night is probably going to be like 3 o'clock, because I had an extra hour of nap, and so I think I can sustain my ability to perform well tomorrow during the day if I cut out at like 3 in the morning. It's an interesting balance though. Like, so we'll see how far we can get. I'm hoping we can finish the flats. These aren't this page in particular isn't as complicated of a page. The ones that took a crazy long time to flat were a couple pages back when we did like a street scene. That was nuts. Like trying to get through a street scene. I think it took a couple sessions. But if we can power through these flats, that would be nice, because I'd like to update my publisher with some cool stuff. I mean, they got page 9 a couple days ago, but it'd be nice to have like page 10 just like boom right there. So this is a little thing about publishers that I don't know if people realize, like, and clients in general, like something that I think is really good to keep in mind, that I think artists can like very easily forget. A lot of what stresses people out in art when they're working with artists is like, basically they're up against a deadline. And I'm not saying this publisher, West Margin's been incredible throughout this, but I think that's partially because of West Margin, and some of it's because of just being like a seasoned artist and kind of knowing a little bit of the business side of things. So one thing that's going to make a client freak out, that I think artists need to get better at. And sometimes you'll have just like a terrible client and like it won't matter how great you get at this. But in general, one thing that will always streamline your process, like if you're working in house somewhere, if you're working freelance, whatever you're doing in commercial art, if you just keep in mind that like everyone in business is really freaked out about risk. And most businesses are okay with risk, but they want to minimize it. Like they want to make safe bets, right? And it's easy to understand. Like just, I don't know, imagine that you're gonna spend like a significant amount of money, right? Like yourself as an artist, right? Like you're gonna go to a store, you have to drop like a significant chunk of change for something. You're, as a consumer, probably very afraid of risk. And occasionally you'll take a calculated risk, but smart businesses take calculated risks. Small businesses take very calculated risks, right? Because you have a limited amount of money, like, you know. So something to keep in mind with the process of art and working on stuff is you need to be as transparent. I think I make an effort to be as transparent as possible with the process of making something. I would rather over communicate to a client than under communicate and under deliver. The point being, like, you want to make your process as easy, and as you want to be the one giving them too much information, I think. And it's better to hear from the client like, hey, I don't need this many updates, than it is to hear from the client like, hey, where are we at on this project? Because if the client's reaching out to you to check on status, if status checks are happening, that's a good sign that like you probably need to be communicating status. Like if you proactively tell people where you're at on a project, you'll find that like people micromanage less. Like point being, like a lot of pressure can be added when you're doing commercial art on a deadline that can be very quickly alleviated just by being very transparent about where you're at and communicating in the process and remembering that you're dealing with human beings that are frankly, you know, mostly concerned about risk, right? Like I mean that's what underlies most uh you know check-ins and stuff like that from a client. Now I can understand if you're up against a tight deadline and you're spending every waking minute like working, like editorial is a good example. Um, I remember doing editorial illustrations where you'd have like the company like follow up with you on the status of something, but it's been like 10 minutes and it's like, look, dude, I'll have the art to you in this time. Like, do not worry. But again, like one thing that also alleviates worry is to just proactively like reach out to your client and say, hey, I'm this far on this. This is the status. This is when I'm expecting it'll be done. Do that before you're asked, right? If you do that before you're asked, you're alleviating their concerns. And so they won't have to follow up with you. And then they don't feel bad because they don't feel like they're bugging you. And you don't feel bad because they're not bugging you, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. I know it seems basic, but you'd be surprised how many conflicts happen in art that literally just could be resolved or avoided just by like a simple email or like, letting people know like where you're at on a project, being like, hey, I'm this far on this project. Um, yeah. Anyhow, just saying. Good little life tip there. We're doing Elizabeth's hair right now. She's getting her hair did. Oh, we weren't doing her hair. We're doing her skin. We're past her hair. And we're flat coloring under lines. So that's what's going on right now. Because we're awesome. And that is what we do. Okay. Do we deselect her skin? No. And I'm not sure if like I made her and Robert's skin tone the same. I think for these panels it is, but we'll find out when we get to Robert. Okay. Wait, was her hand in there? Her hand is not in that panel. Okay, cool. And the nice thing is, like, again, when you work in this process, the further you get, like, the less time it takes. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm also going to pull in from the background there because I don't want like a big area of color to kind of underlap that line. And let's go do this. Probably do Robert's hair next. I like to start with like small things like hair and little details. Like the bigger details are really easy to flat. So if you get the small ones out of the way, again, it's like getting all your vegetables out of the way, right? Cool. We ate our vegetables there. Okay. Should we do the maid? Maid's hair or Robert's hair? I want to do the maid's hair. We're going to do the maid's hair next. Do. So yeah, anyhow, I think like opening channels of communication is like a really wise thing to do. Generally, in general, I think it's a far more considerate thing to like over communicate than under communicate. I think under communication can lead to a lot of assumptions, and that's where people end up in like conflict. You know, 9 times out of 10, people mean well, and conflicts sort of arrive from like a misunderstanding of another person's intentions. That's something I've noticed. So I think that like a lot of the time, if you very clearly communicate your thoughts and ideas, and this goes outside of just art stuff, but it's like it's just a good practice in life to like communicate what you're thinking, communicate what you're feeling, and quite often, you know, this doesn't mean like walk around life like oversharing with everyone, but it's like I think again, um, at least then you're ruling out conflicts of misunderstanding as opposed to like which are silly conflicts. Like conflicts of misunderstanding are like completely avoidable by like making an effort to consciously communicate ideas or thoughts. Um, or like status of where you're at on a job or whatever it is, you know, those conflicts are super avoidable. And then if you have conflict, it's like the real stuff, like the stuff that you should have conflict over, right? I don't know. Another area I noticed I missed the white is on her teeth. Thought that was like a tongue, and then looking at it, I think that's teeth as well. All right, now is that it for her hair? I think we did manage to get her hair. All right, should we do Robert's hair? Let's do Robert's hair. Robert's hair is going to be a little more complicated to get flatted out. Da 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 da. Now it's I know it's this might be a strange way to work because a lot of people work additively, right? Where they're literally just adding color. But when I'm in an area where especially sequentially where you're using a lot of the same colors, which I have a whole theory about. I'm not sure if this is like official comic stuff or whatever, but it's like in a comic, um, you can definitely vary your color a lot, but people associate a character with a color. And so if you like use a color palette for your character, particularly if they're wearing like a certain article of clothing or something like that, I think in general it's best to kind of stay consistent with that color. It just helps people to navigate reading sequential work as if it's flowing together, you know. And then you can kind of change color to like highlight different emotional sections or scenes. I think there might be some areas in here where we get real arty with the color. Ooh. Come on. Da, 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 da. So Robert's hair is going to be one of the more complicated things, but again, you get the complicated things out of the way, and your job becomes that much easier to flat color. I think that's why I like working in this way is like you're kind of knocking out all the most difficult stuff early on, and then from there, you know, you're able to kind of get easier and easier as it goes instead of more and more difficult, which to me is like that's one of my favorite methods with art in general is to like start with the stuff that's the hardest. It just, that whole concept of like eating your frog or whatever. So it's funny, I've been watching these like while I was working on page 9, I was really enjoying watching these live streams of like high stake poker games. And it's weird because like I am not a person who's played a ton of poker in my life. I think when I was in my 20s, I played a little bit of like Texas Hold'em with like some friends, you know. But like I'm one of those guys who I play poker so infrequently that I would have to like look up the value of hands, you know. Like what's a good hand is something I roughly know, but I don't have it like memorized, and I would probably get eaten alive playing like a seasoned poker person. But I have to say, there's something really interesting about watching like high stakes poker and just the whole kind of art of it. It's interesting. I don't know. So anyhow, I don't know if that's going to become a constant interest, but I think, especially considering all the chaos that's happening in the world right now, I feel like I know there are like major political things that have happened recently, and I've just kind of tuned out of politics lately. Um, it's not that I'm like not concerned with the world. I'll definitely pay attention during the midterms and when I'm able to do something proactively to kind of change situations, you know, donate to causes that I think are important. But it's like at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know how to I guess it's just I caught myself getting like I feel much better, um and this might be like delusion or whatever, because I definitely think you have like a political responsibility, right, to kind of pay attention to what's happening in the world. So I am still cognizant. I'm still like reading the news and stuff, but rather than kind of listening to like a ton of political programs and things like that, I found that even something as silly as watching like a high stakes poker game um, has done me a lot of good. Another thing I'm gonna say is the workflow. Like I work really hard on art, and I think anybody who follows my channel would know that. Like I'm always working on art. I'm always working on art projects, but the level of dedication and focus and like stuff that like working at the output level that I'm working at now is requiring is a whole different level than previous comics, because previous comics I could kind of more casually work on and kind of carve at years at a time and kind of do in a way where there was still some semblance of balance. Like I might actually have a weekend. This, in order to hit what I've been hitting so far, I've pretty much avoided going out. Like basically, I get home from work, I nap, I read to my kid, and then I just work. And on weekends, I just try to dedicate like most of the weekend, if not all of the weekend, to working. I think this last weekend I did go over to my friend's house and play guitar for about an hour. So that was like the first time I went out on a weekend since this project started. And I'm not complaining. That's just kind of what it's going to take for me to get this done. And it's all about me being self disciplined enough to kind of do that. But anyhow, one really great byproduct of that is like I literally can't I can't really concern myself too much with like what's going on in the outer world, because I have to get this thing done. And in a weird way, that's like I think like save for people who maybe overworking is their problem. I think sometimes like just being busy on a project, um, you know, I don't think it's good to live in a distracted life, but I definitely think if you're a cartoonist, try cartooning a ton. Like if you find yourself, bummed about the world or things that are going on, like maybe put it into your art, like put the time into your art, and you might find, I don't know, for me, I've found like a lot of contentment because I literally I can't get super distracted um, with politics or with the woes of the world right now. However, I'm still aware of it, not like putting my head in a tunnel or in the sand or whatever and just ignoring what's happening in the world. But I think that it's like I blink and I'm working on comics, and I blink and I'm at work, and I blink and I'm like reading to my kid, and that's been my schedule. I don't know if that's unhealthy. Like it might be unhealthy if it's being used as a distraction to kind of avoid heavy things, um, but I have to say, like, I'm really enjoying that. Uh, it's almost like a forced inability to give too much attention or credence to like the woes of the world. So that might, I don't know if that's healthy or not, but or if that even makes sense. If you guys are watching this after the fact, you can let me know in the comments if that makes any sense at all. But I kind of think that can be a really healthy thing. We're deselecting Robert's hair. This is probably going to be one of the longer processes. And we're into our second stream because the first stream of the night, as well as like most of the workflow during that stream, was like severely delayed by my computer needing to restart and me needing to clean up my desktop a little bit. Okay, Robert's hair is getting there. Just to kind of like, so we don't lose all of this selection, let's pick what would be next. I'm just gonna do a generic color for the areas we don't want to lose the selections in. So I've done quite a lot of them. Oh. Okay, and we're doing Robert's hair here. I just picked a really weird color that isn't gonna get confused or whatever. Because as I go in here, if I like had that many selections live and then I lost one, we'd be in real big trouble. So yeah, anyhow, that's something I've been thinking about, is like the fact that I literally I can't obsess. I have a mind that obsesses. At least I think that's kind of how my mind works. Like where, and honestly, one of the fun things about this historical fiction project has been that, like, you guys will see when I'm doing thumbnails, um, and research for pages on this, like I'll go fairly deep, like into the weeds on like simple things like, okay, there's a lunch meal. What kind of lunch would they have? Like for like a wealthy family at this time in London, what would that look like? And it's like I'm not going super deep, but I'm going deep enough to where it's like levels deeper than a lot of artists might, and maybe levels less deep than a lot of artists might. But I do feel like this project, I feel uniquely suited to this. It feeds a part of my personality that likes to like deep dive into like weird stuff. Um, but that part of my personality can be really detrimental when it comes to like things that are happening in the world where I'll deep dive into stuff that's going on and then just get overwhelmed with like grief or frustration or anger at all the ills of the world or the things that are going wrong, right? And I think that again, it's like you can't be ignorant to it and just ignore what's happening in the world, but also we have to like continue to live and continue to like breathe and continue to survive um and there is something about being like super crazy busy on projects that is really nice for that, like not as like a therapy thing but just like almost like a I don't know, I guess my point is I think it's healthy to work. And I have to say, just from this schedule, man, if I can get through this year, I think I'll be able to knock out because I'm about 20 pages into Jacob's, not Jacob's Apartment, Two Stories Book Two. I feel like if I can maintain this schedule, man, that Jacob's will get done in like no time. We'll see. All right, let's eye drop this sucker. We're gonna do. Uh, we're gonna do Robert's face. I don't think his. Yep, perfect. Okay, Robert's hands and other details are going to happen now. And we still have time, you guys. Hopefully by 3 in the morning. Right now it says it's 2:13 where I'm at. 3 is my heart out. The only reason I'm even allowing that is I did have like an extra hour of nap. I'm on a chaos schedule, you guys. Okay, I think that's hair. Correct those little areas that I didn't get before. Robert. I love this style. Personally, I'm enjoying working in it because the lines do so much of the work. Like, it really is just flat color and shading. And that the lines are doing so much of the work on the on carrying the art. It's actually quite awesome. Makes it look a ton more complicated than it is. Okay. Feel like there are some things going on here that I don't even know if I agree with. I think that okay. Kind of seeing what's happening here. Okay. Yep. Love it. Get back to that skin tone. I get his hands. Deselect those. And what's great is I know this process might seem tedious, but it's like it really does start again, like the more you kind of get done, like the quicker it goes. And hopefully that's starting to kind of make sense. I'm always open to other people who might have quicker processes too. Obviously, speed is always something I'm open to hearing. So if you have a better, quicker way with this style of line art, let me know. I'd love to know it, especially if it'll save me a ton of time. We're getting there a little bit with this as well. So let's get that done. There's a video game-esque element to flat coloring that I really enjoy, even though it's tedious. Here it is. I've just realized a mistake as well. So we'll get into that. The mistake is right here. That should not be white. So we're going to kind of reselect that section because that doesn't make any sense that that would be white. I don't know why exactly I didn't notice that before. Similarly here, this is going to be the blanket. Oh man, we may not finish this tonight because I just remembered the blanket. Okay, we're actually going to get in here. I think this needs to be overall there. Yeah, that'll make a lot more sense. Okay. Oh, one other area that I messed up on that I have to fix. I'm going to reselect that. And then we're going to pick what color we're going to block out next. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I'm pretty happy with it. Okay. So let's pick another color. Should we do Robert or Elizabeth? I think we're pretty close to done with Elizabeth. Let's do Robert or the maid. Do we do her skin tone? No, let's do the maid skin tone. Guessing it might be the same too. Get that maid skin tone done. Very simple deselection there. And the temptation is to get real sloppy like the further you get on this, which is why I like starting with those like smaller details. Because it's a lot easier to maintain interest as you're coloring. The one reason I was saying we may not finish the flats, aside from the fact that we just may not finish the flats, is that I have to do the pattern on her blanket, and I may not have time tonight before But the nice thing is we'll definitely be done by tomorrow. Or I should say later tonight. So worst case scenario, I'll wrap this during Artcasters on Scott Strickland's channel. All right, so where are we at here? We've got oh my goodness, did I somehow not deselect the okay. Two things. Didn't deselect Robert's face. That would be good to kind of do. And then we also need to perfect. We also need to do made. Continue with that. Okay. The maid's hand. And her head. And her last hand. And I think we might be done with the maid fairly soon. Maybe we'll do the maid real quick. Because I think all we have left is like the little rose thing that's on her hair or on her hat. So we'll do that. And I think that's the same color. Maid is going to be done very soon. Okay. So the flower. Boom. The dress. Man, it's like night and day compared to the last stream. I don't know if anybody was watching that the last one, but oh my gosh, it was taking like so long to do these very simple changes. Oh my gosh, I somehow missed her face. Well, we'll correct and rectify that in a second. Let's get the maid's outfit here. And we're gonna get back to the maid's outfit. Yeah, so anyhow, it was it's funny, I haven't had that kind of a computer snafu in a while, and man, snafus galore. Yeah, it's an interesting thing trying to kind of find the magic balance, which I don't think exists, between kind of feeling the sorrows of the world on things and having awareness, being a responsible citizen, and also maintaining, like health. That would be this color. Okay. Whew. Okay, we're gonna save and we're gonna see where we're at on the stream. Okay, perfect. I think we're in good shape. We just have to finish the maid here. And then we got ourselves a flat colored maid. Okay. And I'm going to do the windows because we'll have a quick win from that. Happy to have a quick win. Let's get those windows. It's a very quick win after we finish the maid. And it'll start covering some of that surface area. So hopefully we can start, at least for me, it's important to also like kind of keep your own interest in a project as you're going. So it's like getting that window taken care of isn't going to be a bad thing. Ooh, we missed something. I missed the rose. I got a new rose. I got a new rose. It's a good song. Okay. Go back to that. Okay, let's get back to Robert. Robert's needing his jacket and tie. And are we seeing feet? Okay, cool. Jacket, tie, and feet. Is this a different color? Nope. Jacket, tie, and feet. Here's his tie. Make sure I'm picking the right color there. Yep. Tie, done. Tie, jacket. Feet. Do. Got a feeling inside of me. Kind of calm like a stormy sea. Do. Okay. Okay. Yes. This will go here. And I'm feeling pretty good about the progress we're making now because again, it starts kind of slow. Especially when you're in a scenario like where your computer's crapping out, like I was before. But then it just gradually kind of speeds up, and before you know it, you have like a fully colored page. That was the right call. Okay, and again, we're just getting the bow ties. I like to start with the small stuff. And part of why it's fun to start with the small things too is then you've got like these giant areas, and so it really starts speeding up. Like now I can do his jacket, which I think we already selected the color for. So what color are his pants too? Okay, let's do pants first. Okay. Pants are a little lighter. Let's do that. I think there might only be one panel where we're seeing his pants. Oh my goodness. And Victorian men's pants are insane. Like they had these long crotches on their pants so that like they basically just the waist was like a million times higher on pants at that time. So it created these like really strange kind of pants. But I guess that kind of makes sense. But it's an interesting fashion. I actually think that's one of the least tacky times for men's fashion though, like the suits and stuff. They're not bad, you know. Okay. So now we're going to do our jacket. And our jacket. And our jacket. Carving away, right? The process of making art is so much just sort of chipping away, progressing forward, keeping your confidence, like, you know, knowing that it will get done. It's a very strange thing. But also kind of a cool, magical process of the art world, you know. Whenever I'm working on this, I'm always imagining that I'm like, it's almost like cutting out construction paper. If that makes sense. Like that's a good way to visualize what you're doing when you're flatting. You're basically like cutting out a bunch of different shapes that are flat color. All right. I'm saving this entire time. So as I'm going along, I'm also wondering if that should be, I think I'm going to make that his vest. That just would make, you know what? It wouldn't be his vest though. It would just be the other side because the vest is like more tightly buttoned. So never mind. It would have been fun to have that be his vest, but nope. Oh, thought I had finished that correctly. And the nice thing is if I change my mind again on that, you know, it shouldn't be super impossible. Son of a, I keep deselecting weird on this particular spot. Not sure what it is that's throwing me off there. There we go. And then the last one, which will be going through here and deselecting this jacket. And now we're in pretty good shape because we have most of the characters flatted. So now it's literally just backgrounds, which is easy peasy. Okay. How many times do we see that? Okay. I want that to be consistent too. There we go. We're doing the picture frame now. Again, I like to start with like the really small details because it just makes it go so much quicker once those are all out of the way. Does the frame have any color for the, no. Okay. I don't think the rope is ever drawn on that frame. Is it? Trying to make sure my colors are consistent. Okay, cool. It's not. So that rope is going to be the same color as the sky, the frame. one section I missed. I think that's the only section where we're seeing that frame. That's good. Okay. Let's do Shift F5. Okay. And now let's do. Okay, we have the picture frame done. Now let's do some basics here. Let's get the Chase Lounge. We'll start with I think that'll actually simplify the process here. We'll start with her blanket. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, I just missed an entirely important part here. Can you believe that? That is some chaos there that I missed. Wow, that's kind of a game changer there. How could I miss that detail, you know? And similarly, I missed her hand here. There's an extra other detail that's good to not miss, you know? It's like changing the entire pose almost. Well, not really, but it's a good detail to get right. There we go. Look at that. Much better. Okay. And again, you just kind of adjust those things as you go. As you go, it gets easier and easier to adjust. Whew. We've been going for a good hour. I want to make a little more progress. I always kind of hate doing this, but I feel like it's very important to kind of try to get at least a little further on this. So let's see how that goes. First, let's get this taken care of. Okay. Now let's see. Let's try. I'm going to save. And then I'm going to play the trailer for 2 Stories, which is my graphic novel that's currently out. And I'll be right back. And we're going to power a little further on this. Thanks to those of you who are joining. And this is the trailer for my graphic novel that is 2 Stories, which you can get on Amazon today. So anyhow, if you haven't yet, please consider it. Okay. All right, we're back. Right now we're flat coloring page 10 of Not Death But Love. And her chaise lounge is red, so this is like very minor details here, like that. It's like a red mattress kind of thing. So here we go. Rocking it. Feeling pretty good. There's an area I need to fill with black that's down there too. It's funny how many little details you notice as you're coloring. So, I think what I'm going to do is use that as a stopping point to kind of correct some of this area of black that frankly should have been handled, but hadn't been. So my rich black is 50, 50, 50, and 100. And I'm going to go back to I'm on my black line art. I'm just going to kind of correct that little spot. Maybe the edge, so it's not quite as tight. Okay, cool. Now we can go back. Let's get our area deselected here. Okay, so I'm gonna save, and then let's do pillows next. Pillows. She's got these blue pillows, and I don't think you're gonna see them anywhere except here. That is okay. More than happy to rule that out. Oh my goodness. Why did I do the pillows and not the color of the... Well, whatever. Okay. Back to it. Okay, let's do the chase now. The full chase will be like this. Very easy here. Easy peasy. Here should be much larger swath and area of color. But that's cool because again, it's just like we're getting rid of things we have to color. That's how I look at it. I'm like eliminating the things we have to color. And we're getting in there. Let's eliminate all of that complexity. Okay, I don't think there's any of that shown here. Here, there's a little bit. Here, a little bit. I think that's it for that color. It's funny because when you're having to match a previous page, the coloring process actually goes a lot slower than if like you just had to make selections on the fly. It's a little less fun to do. Let's do the drapes. That was cool. See if we can select these drapes. Get those ruled out as a possibility. Whew. Is that the only... there's one other section with the drapes. A little section we missed there. Okay. Drapes are done. Okay, let's do background color. I think there's a generic, yeah, I'm using this as like the more kind of background shots. I could shift, but I kind of like that. It feels like it matches the room. So that's kind of like on these more generic background shots, which I actually feel pretty good. Okay. Okay, now we're going to do our, what are we going to do? Should we do the rug? No, let's do the food dish. Oh. Food tray. I think there's literally only one panel that shows this food tray. That's good news. What else for food? Right. There's the tray. And the nice thing is we aren't seeing a ton of it. We're just seeing like a little bit of the tray. So there's that. Now we want to do the meat. There it is. So I'm curious, like for anybody who might be tuning in after the fact or before the fact, if you don't do comics, does this like crazy long process make comics seem really appealing or seem like something you'd want to steer far, far away from? I'm always kind of curious, like at an outsider's perspective, um, like from somebody's perspective who doesn't do comics, any of this would even seem remotely appealing to someone, you know? Because I think like art always seems really fun to people who aren't artists. But I think when they see in real time, like the amount of time it takes to kind of make this stuff, it's like way less. Usually that'll quell the perception that like this whole thing is just a lot of fun. Although it is a lot of fun, it's just like it's still also quite a lot of work. Um, the harder side to the fun that I don't think as many people see, you know. Okay, we're gonna save this. Let's see, did we show the roof at all? I think we did. Yeah, that's the roof color. Okay, cool. I'm gonna turn off my extras here too. And I want to turn on the white background. That would be helpful. Just to kind of make the color stand out. So one little spot I missed there that I want to correct. Yeah, I'd love to hear if you're somebody who watches my channel who's not an artist. I would love to hear your perception of like what this like. Does this look like fun or does it look like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't want to do that? You know, I'm always curious. Okay, let's see, walls. Should we do the walls now? Yeah, let's do the walls. Well, let's do the trim, the wall trim. Here's the trim. I think it only shows here once. This might be a much more complicated thing to accomplish here. Yep. It shall be. And so it shall be. It's a little more not much, but a little bit more complicated on this page. Those trims. Cool. Okay. We got our trim. Now let's do our walls. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Walls. Very easy selection here. Very easy selection here. This one will be a little more complicated. And I noticed I missed the trim. There it is. tend to think for the walls here, I feel like we established kind of a different thing for this room. So get into that in a second. But right now we're just deselecting this wall. I know it's at least going to fill this section of wall. I think the upper section gets a little different. And then here is like all wall almost. So we're almost done with quite a few of these panels, which is pretty exciting, you know? It's one of the things I love is like once it starts getting here, you start seeing it all come together and make sense. Okay. There's a couple things. I want to do the roof here. Oh, one other wall kind of scenario going on here. Some trim I need to do as well. Trim. Okay, now let's do wall again. Pull that a little tighter, the item there. Okay. Now let's see. We can do our roof. And I can correct that little missing part that I missed up there. Okay. Very quick here. Gonna be here, 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 and here. Here, here, and here. Yay. Okay. Real quick, we're gonna do our floor, which will literally leave us with one panel left to finish up here. Yes. Boom. Love it. Okay. We just have one panel left to go, which is going to be, okay, it'll be this room, this side thing. So side thing, done. Fireplace. Let's do some fireplace stuffs. Fireplace is going to be this stuff. Pretty sure it goes all the way to here. All the way to here. To here. Let's see what we end up with. Okay, now we're going to do our logs. Log in the fire. We're going to have to do a color hold on that too, just to make it kind of blend. And then this is going to be our yellow. So there's a couple things. We have to add the pattern to the blanket. I can't forget to do that. Add the pattern to the blanket. Another thing I'd like to do, which is behind the desk, or that desk. There's some. Okay, let's get that orange. Orange. I don't know if you guys have ever heard John Spencer Blues Explosion. This is a very like 90s era band. They had a song called Orange. That was amazing. And it just kind of played with the pronunciation of the word orange. Pretty fun stuff. Okay. I think we'll go just a little bit longer. Okay. Fireplace. Clock. I think the clock is primarily 2 colors other than the white. Which is good to know. Look at this, you guys. We're getting so close. Now we just have to do the crazy bookshelf. Feels like on these pages, the bookshelf is always the beast to get done. Okay. Bookshelf. We're going to do the outer edges first. The outer edges of the bookshelf are going to be something like this. Space. And we're just going to kind of get those taken out of the equation here. Now we're going to do our shadow tone. Our shadow tone is going to be here and here and here. Here and here, and here. And here, here. Then we're going to go back to our other tone. And voila. Okay, now we need our book colors. But first, I want to get that this color. Okay, now let's get some of these book colors, which will be the blue. Let's start with this kind of goldish color. Okay. Gold color done. What do we have next? Red color and the blue. Okay, I think this works for that. Maybe we'll make some selections here. Let's get that blue in there. Okay, and now we just need that green. And we have all the colors imported of that library. Haha. And now we're going to get this color corrected here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have most of our flat colors done. So there's a few things I want to do. One is I'm doing a weird thing with the fire, and I want to continue that weird thing that I'm doing with the fire, which is pretty much taking, let's double check. Yeah, so the fire is going to this area where pretty much everything within this fireplace. I need to check my prints to see how much of the color hold on the overhead shot where we first saw this room with Elizabeth. Okay. So it's mostly okay. We got a starting point here, guys. So it's pretty much everything. I want the log too, because the log is going to be consumed in fire. This whole section is going to be color held, which is cool. Okay. And I want to do the real quick fix of getting that 50, 50, 50, 100. We're going to do our pattern real quick. Luckily, this isn't like a crazy pattern. It like kind of does like a swirly bop. Hold on. Kind of does like a swirly bop kind of thing. There's sort of a open kind of line. And then there's like a more serious kind of thing. It's like more of a thick area. And that just kind of repeats throughout, like this sort of swirly bop. Or that open. Again, we're just kind of creating that pattern here. Trying to kind of follow the contours of the thing itself. Cool. Okay, that's normal. That'll be merged down. Okay. Save. Here we need to do a little bit of that pattern work again. Let's do some of that pattern work here. And we're just kind of, the nice thing about patterns like on a blanket or something is like it's relatively abstract, this specific pattern, which is good. That saves me a ton of headache. If it were like a little more specific, actually it might be a little harder to kind of do, but once you kind of get the flow of the look of the pattern, it's not as hard to kind of create a convincing texture. That's, and this pattern is actually based very specifically on her actual blanket, at least according to a sketch made by her friend. So I guess in the Victorian era, there was this kind of weird swirly bop pattern that we're fortunate is not easy, but it's not like chaotic to kind of apply to a blanket. And then there's one more to go. Can be applied right here. Like we're gonna have our swirly bop pattern. I want to maybe get a little thicker here. Maybe a little bit of that. And then here. Hopefully this is kind of making sense. And you know what's weird? It's almost the same. So I'm wondering if we can do a little bit of this to just borrow a little bit and at least make it a little bit consistent. So we can sort of have it, at least have like a through line or a continual nature to the pattern. Cool. All right. So that'll give us at least a starting point, and then we can kind of build from there. Let's do, like, I like that idea. Maybe this can be more like this. And we're just going to do one more here. Whew. We did it, you guys. There's one last thing that I think might help. And it might be overkill. Let's see. I want to look at page 8, page 9, and let's look at page 10. I think this actually works fine. So I think we're good, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and print this up. I'm going to save. And then I'm going to call it. So thanks to those of you who tuned in. If you haven't yet, please consider clicking the links to the books that I have out currently. 2 Stories, which is my graphic novel that talks about my journey dealing with depression, is out from Marcosia Publishing. You can order that on Amazon.com. And then Jacob's Apartment, which is a story in the vein of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or Ghost World, that's like a doomed romance story that touches on the questions that can shake even the strongest of faith, as well as a coming of age love story. And that'll basically do it. So thanks to everybody who's watched, and make sure you've hit like, you've hit subscribe, and you've hit the bell. And maybe do me a favor and tell your friends about this show too, just as like an art hangout, if they're ever wanting company or whatever when they're working on crazy long projects. Thanks, guys. And the next time I see you guys, hopefully we'll be working on thumbnails or roughs for page 11. And also tune in tonight to Artcasters on Scott Cirkland's channel. That should be pretty fun. And if you haven't yet, I also have playlists on my channel. So If you want to watch Artcasters, every episode is saved under Artcasters on my playlist. And then also, if you want to go through the backlogs of these live streams, it's under Joshua Kemble live stream. And that'll do it. Have a good night, and I will see you guys in the evening, I guess. But I feel pretty good. We only went 20 minutes over, and we managed to get the pages done. So, all right. Have a good night, guys. Bye.